In what ways can CBT techniques help people manage stress, anxiety, or burnout, whether either in the workplace or in their personal lives? How does CBT help in that way?
So, like I alluded to in the first question, the CBT is based on this idea that cognitions, essentially anything that happens between our ears, so thoughts, memories, images, can influence how we feel, which then can subsequently influence how we behave and act. So what CBT aims to do with things like burnout or stress or anything that aims to support is look at those three big areas and seeing if we can influence change in one to influence change in another. For example, often when we become stressed, burnt out, we might engage in behaviors which are comforting short term, but longer term kind of keep us locked in that. A really good one is nutrition or eating. I know comfort eating. As soon as I get overwhelmed or I reach for, deliveries will go up, McDonald's consumption will go up, fast food will go up. Sleep is another big one. So we first look at the behavioral element. So if we can change some of those behaviors and starting with the basics, eat and sleep, we would then might look at the other aspects of the behavior around. Another key thing we tend to do when we're feeling distressed is we withdraw back into ourselves, and life can start to become quite obligational. So we end up just doing work, or we end up just being a dad, or just being, someone who cleans the house at home. You kind of get the obligational tasks done. But again, talking from personal experience, you stop listening to music. You've stopped.
Which is criminal, by the way, because music is amazing.
Exactly. And it's those small building blocks that influence how we feel. But we know that if we're feeling a certain way, having certain ideas and our heads come in, that's when those things start to slip. So what CBT does, at a very basic level, goes, okay, so what are you doing? What are you not doing? And how can we adjust that to ensure that we're getting three big areas we look at? Sort of achievement. Are you getting a sense of achievement, a sense of connection with other people, and a sense of enjoyment? So those ideas, you can do on an individual level of, okay, am I getting those three things into my daily routine? If I'm not, how can I? That's the behavioural aspect.
Achievement, connection, and enjoyment.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, and they're the things that go. They're the things that go very, very quickly if we're feeling distress of any kind. They tend to get put on the back burner, so to speak. You end up becoming, like I say, life becomes very obligational.
Yeah.
The cognitive bit, so that obviously our behavioural strategies, the cognitive element generally falls into two camps.
Yeah.
Approaches that manage the content. So what are we thinking?
Yeah.
So what are the thoughts that are coming into our head that might be certainly reinforcing or creating or magnifying certain elements of distress? So a really good example might be, I'm failing at work.
Yeah.
That thought may pop into your head when you're feeling burnout or distressed. One element of CBT will look at the validity of that thought, will look at the content, the validity. So how true is it?
Yeah.
So you'd work, and often what we do is look at evidence for, evidence against, objective data gathering, and look to go, well, okay, you're telling yourself this, but this is the reality.
Yeah.
And can we come to a slightly different, is there a different way of describing what's happening at the moment? Theoretically being that then relieves an element of distress and improves mood, which will then help you engage in some of the behavioural aspects.
So sometimes it's about challenging the narrative.
Exactly.
Goes with your own experience.
That internal narrative, that internal thoughts, they're so powerful and influence how we feel. I think it's really useful when things are tangible.
Yeah.
However, sometimes those cognitions are not necessarily all that clear in someone's mind, and at times it kind of leads into the other broad cognitive approaches, which are more about relationship with thinking.
Yeah,
and that's where mindfulness. I know that's become a bit of a exploded in the public kind of consciousness.
Being mindful,
being mindful,
and
being
having
aware.
Mindful moments. Yeah,
and this idea of rather than trying to challenge that thought, of being a passive observer of that thought. So rather than going, well, here's the evidence for and against, and here's the, which has its place, mindfulness and mindful-based therapies look at, well, I'm going to distance myself from that thought and let it come and go rather than do anything with it. Just let it run its course.
Yeah.
And both approaches have their place, I think. Both of those cognitive approaches have their place. Like I say, very useful when there's a sort of concrete thought to challenge it directly.
Yeah.
When we're anxious at times, it's almost like a flood of thoughts, I think.
Yeah.
There isn't a specific kind of thing that you're worried or anxious about. Burnout's a really good example for this. Not one specific thing, but it's almost this flooding. That's when the sort of, I think, mindfulness-based approaches and strategies can come in.